So here's the thing. Every news organization, every news agency of all time has always had the ability to publish fluff articles. Because, guys, I wasn't aware that you could get so angry at somebody for not doing something that you would make an entire video about it. But apparently, just being ace, apparently just not being on the spectrum of people who like relationships and sex the way that most everybody else does, apparently that's enough for Matt Walsh to get upset enough to make a video. Or he's just milking the entire thing for content because that's his business model, and milking everything for content is the only way that he can afford to pay the bills. You know, with the several multi-million-dollar contracts he get from Ben Shapiro. But who am I to say anything about any of that? Maybe all of conservative punditry is just bullshit. I don't know. Maybe there's a Fox News article or something that talks about that we might go over in a different video. Who knows? But till then, let's go ahead and take a look at today's fan art section. The first piece of fan art we have here is from Ruvok. We have an actual cat version of me and Holchan ripping up time and space just to pet a cat version of me. You know, y'all make Holchan really wholesome, even if she's right behind. Anyway, the next piece of fan art we have is less wholesome because this one is from Mr. Stopheles. Guys, Mr. Stopheles decided to take the salesman from Ocarina of Time that we have used as a meme on the channel for years for fun, and has decided to turn them into a waifu. Because everything on this channel gets turned into a waifu at some point. You're gonna help us make lots of netcoins. It's terrifying. Everything about this image is terrifying, and I don't know how to feel about it. But I've seen more terrifying images from Stoff, to be fair, but you know, I don't think there's any escaping this kind of torture. Sylvia Silica, thank you for redeeming your points for an Arahara, you fucking degen. But, with all that said, thank you all for your fan art submissions. If you want your fan art to be shown in a future video, the best way to do so is to drop it into the fan art section of the Discord. With that said, if you haven't subscribed or hit the bell notification icon, please do that. Do it. Just do it. Okay. Anyways, let's go ahead and get to the topic at hand. Matt Walsh, please tell us why you don't like ace people today.
Today is Valentine's Day, in case you didn't realize. In fact, if you're a man listening to this and you just remembered what day it is, don't panic. There's still time to run to the store on the way home from work, pick up a gift. Most of the cards and flowers probably get picked over by now, but fortunately, I've always found that the pots and pans and kitchen utensil aisle of the grocery store is well stocked around Valentine's Day. So grab a box of forks, a spatula, maybe a new spaghetti strainer if you really want to spoil her. Throw them in a gift bag.
So we're beginning the video with, I don't know if this is a joke about women needing to be in the kitchen or what. Also, Kunsi XD, thank you for the follow. I appreciate it. We're talking about Matt Walsh today. Have fun with that. It feels like we're just beginning with a gender stereotype. Always a good way to begin a Matt Walsh video, I guess. Get your wife a strainer. Best Valentine's present ever. Yeah, no, Look, the presents that I picked up for Valentine's Day were a little expensive, but at the same time, I'm very happy with the ones I chose. Anyways, none of them were kitchen strainers.
You're gonna have a very happy wife, and I'm willing to bet a romantic evening as well. Take my word for it. But of course, not everyone is interested in romance, and for some, even a brand new non-stick frying pan wouldn't be enough to pique their romantic interest. This is the so-called asexual and aromantic community. Unfortunately, they are the ones that the Washington Post is thinking about on Valentine's Day. This weekend, WAPO published a piece written by a woman named Samantha Sherry, and it was titled, quote, "How Asexual and Aromantic People Make Valentine's Day Their Own."
I mean, so here's the thing. Every news organization, every news agency of all time has always had the ability to publish fluff articles. Always. And to be honest, there's a lot of people, I can tell you from experience, there's a lot of people who don't know how asexual or aromantic people function. Do you want to know how I know? It's because I live in Georgia. It's because I live in a very, very southern conservative state in Marjorie Taylor Greene's actual district. So I live in Southern bigot conservative country. This is just where we are. And I can tell you that when we've had Magic the Gathering events, where multiple people have sat down at a table to play a game of Commander with each other, sometimes the conversation about loved ones and relationships and how well people's dating lives have gone on, sometimes that conversation comes up. And when this scenario happens, which is a very common one, which is I'll be sitting at one end of the table, and there'll be somebody sitting at another end of the table who's of more on the conservative spectrum, and then somebody else mentions that they're ace. They'll just say ace, because usually for most people that's enough for us to understand what they're talking about. They'll just say, hey, I'm ace, so, I don't really do a whole lot today. Not usually. If they're ace and single, usually that's the case. Though, if there's an ace person there that happens to be in a relationship, that can change. And then the conservative person always has a litany of questions. Oh, what does that mean? Oh, so you're not attracted to anybody. Oh, what does that mean? Oh, I don't think, maybe if you just found the right person. Always. This scenario plays out the same way every single time. Conservative person has a ton of assumptions or questions, and the ace person is always on the back foot, having to basically explain exactly how their life works. And some of those questions, some of those scenarios, some of them do make sense. If you don't know any better, the idea that somebody might just not have found Prince or Princess Charming, or, whatever you want to call the NB in between, sure, that might occur to you. And yes, there are scenarios where somebody who's asexual actually really does like having sex, because asexuality is not just about not wanting sex. That's sex repulsion. Asexuality is the lack of sexual attraction to other people. But for some people, romantic attraction can lead to sexual attraction, which is where the aromantic people come in. And not everybody who's asexual is aromantic. And you can see how it seems to be such a simple concept on paper. Asexual person does not feel sexual attraction. A romantic person does not feel romantic attraction or romantic feelings sometimes. And in these two scenarios, you may find that you understand this just from that description. But almost always there is that person who does not know. And so typically, news articles will be made in an effort to explain to these people, because there's always going to be the questions. That conservative person's going to leave that commander table. They're going to go home, or they're going to hop on their cell phone, and they're going to start looking up asexual, aromantic. They're going to start looking up these terms. They're going to start trying to figure out what they mean, because one of two things is going to happen. They're either going to realize that there's a person at the table they like as a friend, and they want to get to know them better, or they want to win a debate with them the next time they're at the table. I have experienced both of these things, and one of them is significantly more comfy than the other. But when this happens, articles like the one from Washington Post tend to come up because people are trying to find this information. So, when Matt Walsh sits here and goes, oh, well, apparently WAPO's talking about this. Apparently WAPO's talking about this. Of course they're talking about this. Because the scenario I laid out is one that I see every other week. Every other week. If you want to know one of the main reasons it happens is I want you to think about this one. Just for a moment, I want you to sit here with me and think about this scenario. I want you to think of me putting down a playmat with my character on the table. And I want you to think of the ways that I have to answer the question when somebody says, "Who's that on your playmat?" Think about that. So if you want to know why this conversation happens so often around me, that will probably help you figure that one out. It only takes somebody finding out that I cover what I do on my channel for a blip of a second for them to feel like it's perfectly fine for them to talk about these topics around me till the end of time. This is a normal occurrence for me. But none of that's super important. What's important is I've laid out why articles like this happen. There are people who get curious about this because people interact with ace people who don't know what it's like to be asexual or aromantic or sex repulsed. They don't know about these things. So go on, Matt Walsh. Your video's useless now. We've cleared everything up for you, but we've got 10 minutes of video to go through.
Now, the article begins by telling us about a 37-year-old person who goes by the name Odell Pax, and the Post reports this. Odell Pax identifies as both asexual and idem romantic, which means that she does not have any desire for sex and she doesn't make any distinction between romantic and platonic feelings. So what to do with a holiday that assumes romantic and sexual attraction are the norm? This
should be a really obvious thing to understand for most people. Already Bracer, thank you for the follow. There are people, this is an issue that demisexual people deal with a lot, or demi-romantic people. A lot of times, if you're demi-romantic, the divide between platonic and romantic attraction can be hard to actually figure out. This feels, maybe it's just because I'm demi, but this feels very straightforward to me. This feels very straightforward to me. I see that, I'm just like, oh, okay, cool. Somebody who does not have sexual attraction, and the ways in which they are attracted to their friends and lovers is basically identical. So this person lives a very different life. There are people who cannot distinguish between romantic attraction and sexual attraction. Would you like to know what one of those types of people are? Demi people sometimes are these types of people. Hello, it me. But let's go ahead and continue.
This year, she's doing what she usually does on February 14th, making time for self-love and self-care.
By going to the cucumber section of the grocery store. Sorry, I'm literally sponsored by a sex shop. I have to make these jokes.
For her, that means soaking in a hot bath before curling up in bed with her three stuffed animals, Findle, Marcia, and Sylvia. The last two names are named after trailblazing trans activists Marcia P. Johnson and Sylvia Rivera.
Okay, cool.
Yes, why not?
So what's the problem? This is a person who lives a perfectly healthy life without other people and cuddles stuffed animals in bed. I cuddle my actual animals in bed, and I cuddle a pillow at night. And who cares?
I mean, why not tell us the names of this grown adult stuffed animals?
Why does it matter? Who cares?
And if that's not enough, we're also treated to a picture of Odell with the stuffed animals, along with this caption. This is the caption under the picture. It says, Odell Pax with her three dolphin stuffed animals, Sylvia, Findle, and Marcia, from left to right.
Okay.
It's a very good thing they specified from left to right, because otherwise we wouldn't know for sure which stuffed animal is named Marcia and which one is Sylvia. So
it's just called due diligence, my guy. There's literally nothing has happened in this article that is contemptuous, and yet somehow Matt is finding reasons to have contempt.
So now we know, and we can sleep easy tonight. Sleep easy, anyway, with the somewhat cruel satisfaction we all sometimes experience after seeing someone else's utterly pathetic and depressing life and feeling deeply relieved that it's not our own life.
What the fuck? How did he go from 0 to 11? What? Wait. So this is somebody who's perfectly happy with their life as it is, and you're just like, I sleep easier knowing your life is pathetic and mine is not. Did you know that I get my dick wet occasionally after I make sure that my wife makes me spaghetti in my new strainer I got her for Valentine's Day? Unga Bunga? Bonbon says, are the spoilers done? The spoilers are done. We're not talking about Puss in Boots anymore. Just what? What was that? What was that 180? He goes from just analyzing the article with snark and then just immediately shoots up to 100. This is such a contemptible person. I'm so satisfied that their life is terrible because they're happy. I want to die.
I try not to delight in the misfortune of others.
Yes, you do. It's your entire MO. It's literally how you get paid. It's your shtick.
And I don't delight at all in Odell's misfortunes.
Yes, you do. So Odell isn't even having misfortunes in this article. You're literally saying, I don't delight in their misfortunes, while explaining the ways in which you delight in their misfortunes.
I don't. But I will admit that when I read this article and I see that picture, I can't help but think to myself, my God, I am glad I'm not that person. Anyway, here's more from the Washington Post. It says, Pax is not alone in rejecting the notion that relationships acknowledged on February 14th have to include romance and sex. Roughly 1% of lesbian, gay, and bisexual Americans are asexual, according to a study from the Williams Institute at the University of California, Los Angeles. Although experts such as Jennifer Pollitt, Assistant Director of Gender, Sexuality, and Women's Studies at Temple University in Philadelphia, believe the population is undercounted and its influence underestimated because of a lack of awareness.
I mean, yeah, there are people who are gay and find themselves in straight relationships because they are expected to. They feel like they are expected to find themselves in these relationships, so they end up in these relationships. The exact same way that somebody might not really feel a type of attraction to other people in this regard, but still find themselves in those relationships because they are expected to.
Sexual intimacy is often placed on a pedestal to sell products, especially for Valentine's Day, Pollitt said. But love without romance or sex is just as valid and fulfilling for asexual and aromantic people. As more people understand that, there will be more support for people exploring their relationship wants, hopes, and needs. In the meantime, many people on the A spectrum, also known as aspec or A-spec.
I've always called it the ace spectrum, like ace spectrum. But whenever somebody says a spectrum, it sounds like a space spectrum. But sure, I mean, if you just want to call it the A spectrum, I don't care what word you use for it.
An umbrella term for anyone who identifies as asexual and aromantic, are finding creative ways to define the holiday on their own terms. Now, the article does continue providing along the way more examples and anecdotes of asexual and aromantic people celebrating Valentine's Day, but I think we've probably already heard quite enough. We've heard, for example, this sentence. Again, roughly 1% of lesbian, gay, and bisexual Americans are asexual.
Right. But then when you consider straight people, that number goes even higher. There are people who are not counted in bisexual, gay, whatever you want to throw. There are people who are not counted in that demographic who will come out as ace. There are people who are aromantic, but whose sexual attraction is only to the opposite sex, or the opposite gender. Like, Matt, this is the gun violence thing in America again, right? Where you just kind of talk about statistics in a way that ignores most of the statistics. Earth Magic, thank you for redeeming your points for an ada, you fucking degen. But said another fucking gatekeepers of the community who try to keep aces and arrows out. Yep. This is why I always consider myself perfectly positioned outside of things. I never have to worry about this. I merely have to analyze, which is great. But go on, Matt. Find more reasons why people not doing things makes you angry.
Now let's think about that. Bisexual Americans are asexual. That is exactly like saying that 1% of polytheistic people are atheistic.
No, it's not. So this is the thing. Labels are descriptive, yes, but those descriptive labels we use for people are only somewhat functional. Sex and gender, I don't think people realize, are a little more fluid than they would like to believe. People who may have believed themselves to be straight for the last, say, 30 years or so, sometimes can find themselves in situations where their attraction has changed, and they're not used to it, and it can be a deeply uncomfortable feeling, but it's still a real thing that happens. You might not have realized that there was an exception to that rule until you met somebody who, well, they made that exception happen. And that may be a weird thing for you to explore, but the thing that happens. You may still largely call yourself straight and heterosexual, but there is still that one little seed, that one little thing that is different. And sometimes you may modify a term to fit that right. So you may change from heterosexual to hetero-flexible, maybe. There's certainly ways that you can operate around that, but really what we're doing is we're trying to take a series of complex emotions and trying to describe them with single word labels. This is why what tends to happen is people tend to go by multiple labels. Asexual, aromantic, but not sex repulsed, bisexual at the same time, because they are not sex repulsed, so they do not want to be with, they do not experience sexual attraction to people, but they will have sex with people and enjoy it, but only people who are on two ends of a gender extreme for them, or, you know, maybe pansexual, so all parts of gender they're perfectly fine with, but they don't feel the attraction, they just enjoy the actual act of doing things. What I've done right there is kind of shown the problem with these labels. I'm focusing a whole lot on the label, but I'm spending so much time describing the mechanics. I'm describing the way that people are operating. Also, why are people fighting in the chat here? Anyway, guys, remember, this is a channel that talks about politics. Sometimes things will make the mad happen. But anyways, point is, people are not simple. People are not. We wish they were. And I think most of the time, the content that people like Ben Shapiro and Matt Walsh and them, the content they make, the reason that it sticks out so much to people, the reason that it is attractive to them is they find themselves in the position where they find the world overly complicated around them. And that overly complicated world around them, they want desperately to make it more and more simple. They start finding too many labels that are describing too many types of people, and they can't keep track of all of it, and it starts to upset them. The truth of the matter is, People are complex, and that's okay. It's okay for people to be complex. It's okay for these ideas to not be easy to explain. It's okay for the world to have a little more magic in it and a little less arbitrary explanation. Okay to live in a complicated world with complicated people and feelings and emotions. Labels are a way for us to simplify that world. Rock Hopper Fluffy Boy, thank you for the 420 bits, and Red Joker, thank you for the 101 bits. Apparently we just started a hype train. But labels are a way for us to try to categorize the world, simplify that world. But the reality is that it gets very hard when you do that. Let's do an example of this. Let's take a label that everybody knows what it means, and then I'm going to start introducing ways that can fuck up that label. Let's take the label gamer. Also, Nova. Hello, Nova. Hi. Anyways, we are talking about Matt Walsh right now. But let's talk about, say, the label gamer. What do you consider a gamer? Is it somebody who plays console games or PC games? Okay, but what if they play, say, mostly mobile games? Are they a gamer still? What if that mobile game, what if they just play one mobile game and it's Pokemon Go? Would you consider them a gamer then? No, because they're only playing one game? Well, what if somebody's playing only one game and that's Final Fantasy or World of Warcraft or RuneScape? That's the only game they play. We're suddenly more okay using the term gamer for them because they're playing a game that you more commonly associate with gaming, sitting down on a console or sitting down on a PC. I hate that you listed Final Fantasy first. Nova, you literally came into my chat and you expected me not to do that. Anyways, so when we do that, when we are using those labels, we are using the label gamer. Nova, you wish. We're using the label gamer in a way to describe an action that somebody takes pleasure in or does in general. Dark Fandango, thank you very much for redeeming your points for and Lotus, thank you for the 1,050 bits. We try to use that label to mean one thing, and then we find different ways to throw monkey wrenches into that one thing to the point where it becomes very, very, very hard to keep those labels straight anymore. We can't keep those labels the way that we commonly use them, because the term gamer now can mean anybody who's playing a mobile game, to playing an MMO, to just playing Super Mario Brothers on the NES, and that's all they've ever played. And what we find is that we're just trying to use that label to simplify people. And it's okay to do that. We compartmentalize people all the time. It's a way that we think as human beings. But to try to argue that the world, by and large, can always fit into these really easy boxes, it doesn't help us too much. It doesn't do us a whole lot of good. Nova, I have a question for you. Since we are going to be doing Terraria Tuesday here in a second. I have a video by Ben Shapiro that I'm going to be covering that's also Shapiro getting angry at asexual people on Valentine's Day. It's the same type of thing that I'm doing right now. Would you want to help me cover that before we do Terraria Tuesday? But I want to check because I know your headache is a bit bad, and I don't want to trigger your headache too much. Sure? Okay then. Guys, looks like we have our first bit of collaborative content that isn't the interview from 2 years ago. You also might have figured out the cause? Well, let me know. Till then, back to this motherfucker.
That 1% of empathetic people are apathetic. You cannot be something and also the negation of that thing.
You can be both if you understand that these labels, as I just explained, are not absolute. These labels are fluid. They are merely ways we describe people and actions and things, and they do not always coincide perfectly into the boxes we're trying to fit people into.
At the same time, if somebody is sexually attracted to two sexes, or sexually attracted to the same sex.
Nova, why are your glasses 2 years old? Why have you not kept up with your... No. Do you have a plan for fixing that? Nova, oh my god. Nova, hold on. Nova, America's Best. They will do a free eye exam for you, and you can get glasses there. 2 pairs of them for, it's usually between like $70 and $80. Like, it's not... It is expensive, but it's not super expensive. Send me the name. I will send you the name. The next time I am down there in Florida, I will drag your ass there if I need to. I will do that. You dorked bean. Is that what's gonna happen? Is that what's gonna have to happen? Focus on your topic, dummy. Yeah, well, apparently you're bad at taking care of yourself, so bite me. Anyways, Matt, let's keep going.
That means they do experience sexual attraction, which would seem to preclude them from claiming the title of asexual.
No, there are asexual people who have sex. It happens.
But then again, we must remember the first rule of the LGBT cult, which is that they can make it up all as they go along, and nothing they say has to comport with anything else they say.
Well, no, it's that when we are using things like labels, we are talking about descriptive factors. We are talking about ways to describe people and things. And sometimes the way we describe things is not perfect. Said this bitch called LGBT a cult? Yes. Yes. Welcome to Matt Walsh. He's a piece of human work.
And they must never be held to even the most basic standard of coherence.
It's not asking for a standard of coherence. It's pointing out that labels are generalizations. And because labels are generalizations, they are often inaccurate.
That's why any attempt to nail down a definition of what qualifies as asexual or aromantic will ultimately wind up as fruitless as any attempt to get anyone on the left to give a definition of literally any other word they use. Have you ever heard of a data broker? They're the middlemen collecting and selling all those digital
Wait, is this a plug?
footprints that you leave.
This is a plug. This has to be a plug. The music changed. Nope, no plugs allowed on my channel. Matt Walsh, instead, why don't you go to ddlgplayground.com? Instead of plugging your shit, I'm going to plug my shit. Go to ddlgplayground.com, use coupon code Suris, get 10% off anything there, and plug your mouth with a fucking ball gag. But, don't spend full price for it because there's not a real reason to do that. So there, instead of using whatever plug he's going to do, use mine. You don't need ExpressVPN. Not until they're sponsoring me. DDLG Playground. Get something long and hard from there. 10% off. Go fuck yourself. Whee! Anyway.
Two categories of asexual and aromantic. This is what it says. Asexuality is an orientation defined by a lack of sexual attraction. That means that an asexual or ace person experiences little or no sexual draw towards others.
Little or no. Wait a minute. Hold on. Matt! Hold on, buddy. Did the definition you just throw out show that there could be somebody who's asexual and bi? Somebody can be asexual and bisexual by this definition right here. Because if they experience little or no sexual attraction, the little right there can be bisexual or pansexual or even straight. Holy shit, you literally are reading off exactly what I need to show that you're incorrect. I love when he does this.
And has little or no desire to have sexual relationships with other people. However, the asexual spectrum has many nuanced identities that fall under the umbrella term asexual. Some of the more common ones are gray sexuality or gray asexuality, where someone experiences sexual attraction rarely or infrequently. Another common identity is demisexuality or demi-asexuality.
Oh my God, it's me. Hi, guys.
Where someone only experiences sexual attraction after forming a close emotional or romantic bond with another person. There are many other identities on the ace spectrum, but what they all have in common is the lack, to varying extents, of sexual attraction.
God, I wish that were
Aromanticism,
me.
on the other hand, is an orientation characterized by a lack of romantic attraction. While asexuality is a sexual orientation, aromanticism is a romantic orientation, and the two don't necessarily correlate. Someone may be asexual but not aromantic, or vice versa, or they may be on both spectrums. An aromantic or aro person experiences little to no romantic attraction towards other people and has little or no desire to form a romantic relationship with anybody else. Like asexuality, aromanticism is a spectrum which includes gray romanticism or gray aromanticism, where someone occasionally or rarely experiences romantic attraction, and demi-romanticism or demi-aromanticism, where someone only experiences romantic attraction after forming a strong emotional bond with another person. Aromanticism is considered an umbrella term that encompasses all the identities that fall on the aromantic spectrum. Make sense now?
Yes, it does. That actually explains everything really easy. Maybe it's just because I'm demi and I already experienced this myself. So maybe that's why it doesn't cause me any problems to hear about any of this. But I don't know, personally, it doesn't seem that complicated. There are people who experience all the sexual attraction, and then there are people who experience none of it. And then there's a bunch of people in between. And instead of just recognizing that we have the spectrum of people in between, everybody wants labels that can define themselves more easily, so it's easier to have conversation. So we have different labels for each area of that spectrum. If we just have a bar graph with a percentage, with, basic ass, common ass, attraction to all ass on one end and attraction to no ass on another end, every 5% or so, there's a label that we've tried to make for someone somewhere on that graph. It's not complicated. It's only complicated if you try to remember every single micro label. You don't have to remember every single micro label. I don't know how to tell you this. All that matters is the label you have for you. If somebody gives you a label for them, all you have to do is say, hey, what does that mean for you? And then boom, boom, problem solved. Takes only a little bit of time. This is only as complicated as Matt Walsh wants it to be for himself.
Now, there's a lot going on here. Actually, let me amend that. There is nothing going on here. This is a whole lot of nothing, which is trying to sound like something.
And yet somehow you're getting upset about it. I agree. This is all nothing. This is effectively a bar graph that we've put labels on arbitrary points of. It's okay for us to do that, though, because we're humans and describing things is what we do. What was it? Matt Walsh is a Christian. What is one of the earliest Christian stories? Literally Adam trying to put labels on animals? Ignore the fact where he was trying to fuck them at the same time, and then God had to rip a rib out of him to make a clone baby, and then somehow had to make a whole bunch of apologia against and also for incest. Ignore all of the mechanics that happened in the story of the Garden of Eden. Labeling people and labeling animals is a thing we've been doing since the dawn of time, even in Christian mythos.
It's a bunch of narcissistic...
Aaron Permet says, wait, Adam committed what? Yeah, no, in the Bible... God literally asks Adam to find himself a mate from among the animal populace. And it was only after Adam tried and failed to find a suitable mate in all of the random-ass animals that Eve was created in the Christian mythos.
Fart sniff.
Thank you very much for the drink, Chesh.
Mumbo jumbo dressed up to sound complex and nuanced, when in fact all the complexities and nuances are just varying degrees of self-contradiction.
Well, it's not varying degrees of self-contradiction, it's varying degrees of attraction. It's only self-contradiction if you talk about the labels, but the labels themselves are a non-factor.
There's actually no meaningful distinction between sexual attraction and romantic attraction. The two terms are synonyms.
What? Wait, what? Okay, look, no, disagree. So for me personally, it is hard for me to distinguish between the two because I'm demisexual. If I'm attracted to somebody sexually, I am attracted to them romantically. I do not have an in-between between the two. And I learned that from being at a swingers party, and I've already talked about that whole conversation beforehand. But it's not that way for everybody. There are people who experience sexual attraction to others and do not actually want to be in romantic relationships with them. Just think of the I can fix her meme. Think of the I can fix him meme. Just think about that. There's plenty of people you're probably attracted to sexually that you do not want to date. And there's plenty of people that you love with all of your heart that you might not necessarily want to have sex with. You might even love them in a romantic sense, and you might not want to have sex with them. Romantic attraction and sexual attraction can be the same thing for some people, and for some people, it's not. There are people who will love you with all of their hearts, but the last thing they want to do is fuck you. And that's the thing. The last thing they want to do with anybody is potentially fuck them. But they'll love you with all their hearts. They'll do everything in a relationship that you might want to do. I don't know how many times I have to tell you that polyamory is an answer to some of this, but you know, I'm not here to talk about that right now. I'm here to talk about ace people. Apparently.
If a person told you that they were romantically attracted to you, but not sexually attracted, they will have given you no useful information about their feelings towards you.
Bullshit. If there is somebody who's romantically attracted to me and they literally go, hey, I'm not sexually attracted to you, but every now and again, it's okay for us to have sex. I'm willing to do that for you. But for the most part, I don't want to do that. I just want to cuddle up on the couch and I want to watch a movie together. I just want to play video games together and I want to go out to eat together. I want to just play games and cuddle and sleep together, and the sex maybe not all the time, if at all. Matt, that's a perfectly okay thing. That's a thing that a lot of people are perfectly comfortable with. Matt, I understand if you cannot delineate between the sexual and the romantic attraction. I understand that. I understand that because I can't. But that does not mean that everybody else can or can't. It doesn't mean that everybody else operates on the same wavelength as you.
They will, however, have given you useful information about the tedious inner workings of their own inane and pretentious minds. As for demi-aromanticism, or someone who feels romantic attraction, especially after forming a strong emotional bond, Well, that is simply called being a person.
No, there are people who form romantic attractions without ever forming a strong bond with somebody. There are people who immediately feel romantic attraction without having to actually learn anything about the person's personality or anything. That's a thing that happens, Matt. It's not healthy, I don't think, but it's a thing that happens. Boyo also says, I think I'm in the wrong stream. Nah, Boyo, you're in the right stream. You came here, you clicked on the video. Hello, how are you doing? Anyway.
I mean, it's more common that a woman's romantic attractions hinges on an emotional connection. But for men or women, this is a rather normal way for things to work.
No, not necessarily. So let me explain. Matt, I went to a swingers party where there were a lot of people who were hot, and I should have wanted to sleep with. And I did not want to sleep with any of them, despite the fact that they were sexually attractive and they were of the proper gender for me. The only people that I wanted to sleep with were the two people that I knew. I knew my partner that I brought with me at the time, and I knew the friend that I brought with me at the time. I knew those two people. I knew nobody else. Without that ability to form that bond with any of those other people, guess what, Matt? I felt nothing at all toward a cat. Thank you for redeeming your points for an owl. Matt, I am a living, breathing example of somebody who literally, functionally, could not get it up to anybody that I should have been attracted to because I didn't know their names. I didn't know who they were. I knew nothing about their stories. I knew nothing about their personalities. That's what demisexuality does to your brain. Without that strong bond, you feel jack all. The Cyber Shield, thank you for redeeming your points for an ara. You fucking degen. But no, point is, you don't feel anything sexually to people that you don't have that bond with. That's what it means. There are people who can go to a strip club and immediately get turned on by the person who's up there pole dancing and just go, yeah, no, I would love to fuck them. But what happens with me is I look up and I go, yes, that is a person. And that's about it. Stormageddon, thank you for the follow. I appreciate it. So I'm kind of glad he has a face that looks so punchable. People who have been in relationships with me or who have been with me can attest that I will definitely show signs of attraction to people who I like in that way. And then for everybody else, it just kind of disappears. It's just not a thing, really. That's a fairly normal thing for somebody who's demi or anywhere on the A spectrum.
So here we see again how the LGBT cult, not satisfied to legitimize every degraded fetish they can find, has now set its sight on fetishizing even what's normal and healthy. This is a trick they get away with because, as it turns out, plenty of otherwise normal and healthy people want to be members of the cult. The best way to rack up social capital is to claim membership in the Alphabet Club. That's because LGBT people in the modern United States are not only not oppressed, but are in fact the least oppressed people to have ever walked the face of the planet.
These are the least oppressed people to ever walk the face of the planet, and yet they're constantly thrown out of their homes all the time. More pieces of legislation have been made against trans people than anyone else. People who are ace are constantly grilled by their families and grilled by their loved ones about relationships they don't want to enter into. Also, Nova, if you want to go ahead and start your stream, we'll be done with Matt Walsh here soon, and then we can have fun yelling at Ben Shapiro together if you want. But no, Matt, it does not matter. It does not matter if you think these people are not oppressed. How oppressed one is or isn't is a non-factor here. If somebody as an individual experiences a fuck ton of bad things happening to them for their attraction or lack thereof, that's all that matters. The individual scenario is what matters. So let me give you an example to show what I mean, because I know that the inclination is to immediately go, hey, somebody about adding a collaborator switch handle in the title now. I did. I believe you as a moderator should be able to do that on your end, correct? But I know that, Matt, while it is statistically unlikely for you to be shot in the ribcage while out and about at a Buffalo Wild Wings, if you happened to be shot in the ribs at a Buffalo Wild Wings, then you would probably focus a whole lot on the fact that you did get shot. You would focus a whole lot on the fact that this thing happened to you. So likewise, when you tell an ace person you're not oppressed, bad things don't happen to you, if they have nonetheless experienced those bad things happening to them, the fact that it is statistically unlikely or statistically low chances of it happening, those things do not matter. All that matters is that it did in fact happen, and the person it happened to is real. That's all that matters.
What about actual asexual people? How should we understand those people who really don't experience sexual attraction and who therefore can validly claim the label of asexual? Well, I think there are a few things to keep in mind about this group. First of all, I'm extremely skeptical that most of the people that claim to be asexual are actually asexual.
And that doesn't matter. You cannot read their minds. If you could read their minds and get into their brain meats and slosh around and figure out exactly where their attractions were, then maybe. But you don't know that.
Okay, because somebody with a low sex drive is not asexual.
No, Matt. Libido and asexuality are separate things. Libido has to do with your willingness to engage in sex. Asexuality has to do with your attraction to other individual people. Somebody can be enamored with the idea of sex and never want to commit it with an actual person.
Someone who doesn't desire romantic relationships is not asexual. Keep in mind the left
You're right, they're not asexual, they're aromantic.
will always do everything it can to inflate the statistics for any of the identity groups that it invents. That's why the leftist group, the Trevor Project, has a page on its website with information about asexuals where they stipulate that asexual people might still, quote, fall in love, experience arousal and orgasm, masturbate, and engage in sexual activity.
Yes, because them not want... No, okay, if somebody is not sexually attracted to you, but they're romantically attracted to you and they are willing to do things sexually with you because of that romantic attraction, that does not mean that they are sexually attracted to you. Somebody can look at me... Somebody could literally look at me and go, Suris, I love you with all of my heart. I want to have sex with you. But you're an ugly motherfucker, and holy shit, you need to work on yourself. That's a thing that could happen. And maybe speaking from experience, but it's a thing that can happen. These things are not as complicated as Matt wants them to be, while simultaneously being complicated enough to where the labels do not matter as much as he wants them to matter. Also, hello, Crow. I'm surprised by his skepticism considering as Matt Walsh, he probably never experienced another person being attracted to him. Jesus. Earl of Madness, thank you for the follow.
In other words, lots of people they call asexual are not at all, in any definitional sense of the term, really asexual.
Again, and you have no way of knowing that. Until you have the ability to hop into a person's brain, sift around it, and figure out their attraction, then the only information you really have is the label they give you. That's all you have. And I know that's uncomfortable because it makes the world seem more scary. It makes the world seem harder to comprehend. But it's okay for the world to be complex. It's all right for there to be a little bit of magic that is not easily explained. But that's about as much of the Matt Walsh video as I can stomach. I figure if he's not going to finish the entire WAPO article, we don't have to finish the entire Matt Walsh video. I think that's fair, right? That sounds fair to me. That sounds very fair. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. I know that this has been quite an interesting thing to go over. And Matt Walsh is quite the lovely virtue signaler. But I want to know what you think in the comment section below. What do you think about Matt Walsh's arguments? What do you think about how he presents himself and his ideas? Because for me, it just seems like virtue signaling bullshit. But let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you haven't already. And as always, everyone, insert end video tagline here.